YouTube, please do not copyright me. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And all of this video is true. And please don't copyright me, YouTube or sunneyV2. But these two YouTubers, shout out to them. Shout out to sunneyV2. He's really good. And check out his content. His name is sunneyV2. Now let's just get into the video.
Almost every single primitive building channel is underpinned by countless different lies, and we've got tons of evidence to prove it. Now, we need to put an emphasis on the fact that this is most primitive building channels, and certainly not all of them.
Most permitted? Yo, what most permitted?
After sifting through forum post upon forum post about the ways in which these primitive builders lie, in order to generate sometimes up to 500 million views per video, users continue to mention one name over and over, crediting him as legitimate amongst the sea of phonies. Primitive Technology. The 10.4 million subscriber channel, which is run by an Australian named John Plant, basically invented the primitive construction genre, all the way down to the sound design of silence mixed with rainforest noises, with Primitive Technology even stating in a Reddit AMA that originally it was out of laziness in not putting narration in the videos, but then the silent format became popular, so I kept it that way. When going back to the beginning of these silent, relaxing videos, it becomes pretty obvious as to why they're credited as seeming pretty legit in terms of authenticity. Primitive Technology cuts no corners in showing how each stage of the construction is complete.
There's no cuts, so this seems really good. If there's no cuts, then it's very real, because in other primitive videos they use hundreds of cuts. So, and I started this video before watching I bite my tongue, but I watched this video before. So yeah, this channel is very, other channels they have 10 to 5%, because there's some what do they say? No. Drone footage. So yeah, let's just get into the video again.
Legitimately. For example, when examining his very first video, he shows the axe head being sharpened, a log then being cut by the axe, then the logs being crafted together in a way that feels realistic. All of this is accompanied by specific captions explaining what's going on in that very moment, alongside a full description of the build, all the way down to how long the construction process took. His builds never include swimming pools or anything over the top, yet feel impressive as they seem to be on the cutting edge of what is and isn't possible to build by hand. The legitimacy of some of his more impressive builds, such as this brick hut, can be supported by YouTube comments such as this one, which stated, "I actually know John personally. He was a really good friend. We live in the same town, although I haven't seen him since he went viral. I have fond memories of him telling us that he was building huts out bush and had no idea they were so legit, before going on to credit him as a pretty authentic guy from a personal relationship standpoint." All of this is incredibly important to understand, as Primitive Technology's videos set a baseline for what should and shouldn't be achievable in a natural setting. Additionally, Primitive Technology has been kind enough to provide us with a statement, which will be referred to as we look at the channels on the other end of the spectrum. Also known as the fakers. The fundamental problem with the genre is that, with so much time between camera cuts, there's plenty of time to set things up illegitimately. And with Primitive Technology's very first video receiving over 44,000 Reddit upvotes and 30 million views, it's no surprise that copycats with less integrity began to pop up left, right, and center. On these channels, the buildings were taller, the slides were longer, and the water was suspiciously more blue.
And it's a weird blue colour. Why is it so blue? Probably because the probably spilled dye or something. There's no reason for it to look so blue like that.
Even more interestingly, almost all of these channels range from the exact same area, being Cambodia, Thailand, or Vietnam, yet often geotag the United States, claim to be living in the United States, and have their social blade country set to the United States. The overall production and build quality on these channels is arguably far more impressive than the OG Primitive Technology, to the point where you have to ask yourself, are they really creating these structures out of mud and sticks? Well, when you do a little bit of research, the answer to this question is most certainly no. The best evidence for this is found when looking at a 5 million subscriber channel called Primitive Technology Idea, whose failure to cover up the ways in which they fake their videos make them almost comical to watch. Take for example this episode titled Building Underground Water Maze Crocodile to the Secret Underground House and Swimming Pool, in which the first shot shows 2 minutes.
What the hell was that name? That's way too big of a name.
digging on the surface, then in the next frame they're in an 8-foot deep trench. Now, if they're digging this deep with sticks, how are they avoiding large rocks and potential tree roots from, the massive line of trees seen just behind them? Are they being assisted by large machinery? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but first let's focus on the idea that it's only 2 people doing these impressively large primitive construction projects. If that's what they were attempting to portray, it probably would have been best not to include the clip where a guy in a white t-shirt can be seen working on the project in the background. Yet if it were just these 3 guys, that still wouldn't be that bad. However, further evidence suggests that they are far more help than this. At the start of the week, a community post was made on this channel in the hope that someone who had worked with one of these primitive builders would be willing to share their experience in doing so. We received countless emails which were all super helpful, yet one email stood out as being incredibly unique. That email was incredibly from one of the cameramen who works for one of these larger Southeast Asian primitive building channels. His name and the channel he works for have both been blurred out, as it'd be a little unfair for him to get in trouble for simply trying